There are ads that we see in Kenya that would never be allowed in Europe or America. Whether it's common pushing fake jobs to desperate people or harmful information being shown to children, every day tech companies profit from showing us ads that put us all at great risk. In fact, 68% of Kenyans say that they have been exposed to these harms in Kenya. Yet these companies are aware that some advertisers and products should not be promoted. They say they have policies in place to ensure that this doesn't happen, but these are just words on paper, especially for the Kenyan context.
It's not that easy to outrightly sell or advertise something harmful on something like a newspaper. But what we have seen with the advent of a lot of advertising platforms that are run by tech giants is that very many people with very nefarious type of goods or practices are actually able to advertise on their platforms. There are very many cases where they have been noted not to have what we call KYC or know your customer principles, and therefore have allowed people with very dangerous goods and people with very dangerous intent to go ahead and advertise on their platforms. Case in point, there have been very many cases of scams being advertised through very many of these internet giants platforms. And secondly, people have even seen that there's an ability to even buy advertising for hate speech on these platforms.
For many young women out there, social media policies that are meant to protect them have failed them in the worst ways. They provide the technology that makes it easier for bad actors to target them. The defense mechanisms that they promised are not working. Join us in the fight for a safer online environment. Together, we can hold these platforms accountable and protect women's health everywhere.
My name is Maurice Otieno. I'm the Executive Director of Baraza Media Lab, the organization where we are all in. My work was already cut out. I was meant to spend 2 minutes here and leave, basically tell you who we are, why we are here, and why this is important. So Baraza was launched in 2019. Our main work was basically, how do we bring trust to media? I know that's a very big conversation, right? There's always media, now we are called a brown envelope, Githeri media, deep state, what else are we called, right? So the media and the creative space has always been baffling this big thing called trust. And it's trust between the citizens and the media, and even within the media space, there's a lack of trust. But the one key thing that brings lack of trust is misinformation, propaganda, all those kind of terms bring a lot of mistrust, and our key thing is in 2022, we started a program called Fumbua, which is a Swahili word for unraveling. You're showcasing, right? So unraveling so that you know what is in there. Is it the truth or is it a lie? And the main thing for us was, how do we bring media organizations and content creators to be able to speak truth and to share the truth, because we all love lies. We are all lied to every single day, from tech platforms to politicians, and we love it. And we spread it, on WhatsApp groups, we share it very fast. And when we speak about the truth, it takes time to spread. So Fumbua's main role was, how do we center the truth so that trust can come back? So we center it through trainings, we center it through research, we center it through programs where we are co-creating with other individuals, right? And for us, this research goes to the core of what we stand for, where it's how do we use this research to hold the custodians of the black box accountable. So we hold the misinformers accountable, but also not only the misinformers, there's somebody who's giving them the juice, giving them the steroids, and that's the custodians of the black boxes, and that's the tech platforms. So we cannot be hypocritical and hold only one side accountable, which is the people who are perpetuating the lies. You also have to hold the people who are spreading it and spreading it so fast, and fanning it. And that's why we're here. So we are super excited that all of you have come to listen and see what we had prepared together with a lot of partners that you can see their logos on the banner. But we also welcome you to have those intricate conversations within your small groups, within those WhatsApp groups, right? And calling out people. So, because we can do 1,000,001 research, but if you don't change that within your small WhatsApp groups, then we'll keep on doing research and the status quo will still remain. So thank you so much for coming here. That shows a lot of commitment from you guys, and we hope to work and hear from you more about this particular topic. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Another round of applause for Maurice. So he's highlighted something very important, Fumbua, right? And I do hope that been advised to be a bit further into the stage. We do hope that even this for you kind of enlightens you in this discourse, right? So one of the first things we have discussed is the digital space. Yeah, so I'm hoping as we go along, you have those pointers as we go along. We've talked about the digital space. We've talked about yoni pulse, right? We've talked about yoni steaming. And we've now added another word to it, which is misinformation, disinformation, right? Are we familiar with those two terms? Misinformation, disinformation. One is malicious, the other one is unintended, right? And so all of this is happening within that particular context, and it's calling upon the platforms, the digital platforms, to either one, be accountable, two, transparency, and also just to see how it is that they engage with their consumers or are protective of their consumers, okay? So to take us into the next kind of tagline for this particular event, we want to look at a short video. So it's talking about Kenyans for sale. Are we familiar with the context or the conversation where if it's free, then you're probably the product, right? If I'm giving you my data, because we do that a lot on Instagram, on Facebook, right? We share our information, we accept the terms and conditions. How many of us even read them? We don't read them, it's too bulky. Do we know the privacy policies on some of these platforms? We are unaware, right? So we've signed up, we've given all this information, and so what do we get in return? Do we think about that? And is it even in our power, to do anything about it? Okay, so this next conversation is a prompt to that question. Kenyans for sale, when you're giving out your data, when you're giving out your information, what are you getting in return? What are you giving or handing over to the platforms? And then at the end of it, we'll now talk about the conversations around, what is their responsibility or what they ought to be doing. So welcome, listening.
A detailed report highlighting how Google, Meta, YouTube, and Instagram allow dangerous health products to be targeted at Kenyan women and make money from it has been released. The vaginal detox scam industry is thriving in Kenya, even though it is not backed by scientific evidence, and healthcare professionals caution against it.
Vaginal detox is used to remove toxin from the vagina, but then when you look at it, the vagina itself has a way that it cleans itself through secretions. There's nothing like vaginal toxin, and so when someone talks about detoxing the vagina, then that is not real.
Not only are there social media pages that promote dangerous health products, but they're being recommended to Kenyans in their feeds and being allowed to run ads. This is a scam, and it is against the platform's rules.
If you look at how social media platforms invest for platform safety, you'll find that there is gross underinvestment in Africa or generally in markets outside the West, that is America and Europe. But Africa gets the shortest end of the stick, obviously due to structural racism.
The investigation highlights the global failure of these tech giants to control dangerous information and protect us. In Kenya, Facebook and Google's refusal to regulate these practices are extremely concerning. This research was able to identify the top 14 profiles responsible for most of this traffic. The top one among them has almost 30,000 followers and a storefront. They let ads for scam vaginal detoxes target us, and they profit off ads despite the health risks. Immediate action needs to be taken on this to ensure that tech companies take responsibility and make their platforms safe. This report provides many actionable solutions that can be applied by the platforms and us. Join us in the fight for a safer online environment. Together, we can hold the platforms accountable and protect women's health.
Before I call in our keynote address, I think I'd like to check in with you based on that video that we have just watched. Have you tried to go onto your Google search engine and just text Yoni? Can I invite you to do that right now? Just type Yoni and then tell me what comes. Yoni is Y-O-N-I. What are you seeing? Anything? Or for the Wi-Fi password, it's over there. Baraza Media Lab 102, password is Karibu $21. Yes?
So the first thing that pops up on my search engine is trying to explain to me what Yoni is. So it's saying it's something like some Indian thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Some Indian thing. Yeah. Okay. So there's the Indian thing, which I think is it's the female body, right?
Yeah.
And then there is the pearls, the picture of the pearls for her search, right? So anyone who did not press search, like you just typed Yoni, and then there's the what came when you did that? Yeah. Yoni pearls was the first thing. Yoni wash. Yoni. Yoni egg, Yoni steam, Yoni pearls, all that, right? Isn't that interesting? The fact that, you've not even gone ahead, and I also cue you to just look at the rest of your day-to-day. When you get onto IG, when you get onto Facebook, now that you have made that search, you'll just take note of the ads that you're going to start receiving, right? So in the course of the day, just look out for the ads you will be receiving as a result of that search, okay? So goes back to what we are hoping to tackle today. And I think Wanjiru is going to really take us through the report and some of the things that they were finding as they were doing that investigative analysis. So now I will invite our keynote address, our keynote speaker, who is coming in from the Kenya Human Rights Commission. She is a commissioner, and her name is Professor Marion Mutugi. Kindly give me a warm round of applause for Prof.
Oh, you want me to stand up here? Good morning. I'm a teacher by profession, so standing is part of the game. Thank you very much. My name is Marion Mutugi, and I'm a commissioner with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. It's not the Kenya Human Rights Commission, that's an NGO. I work with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which is a constitutional commission with the mandate of promoting and protecting human rights. Now, I want to remind all of us that our Constitution 2010 has a very, very progressive and a Bill of Rights. Chapter 4 states all the rights that we enjoy, should enjoy. They are not given, they are ours by the very fact that we are alive. They are human rights. And it is a privilege to be here. And I am a scientist. And so when this came to the commission, I am the commissioner who is privileged to work on tech and human rights. And therefore, I am happy to be here. As you can see, I'm old school, so I have a little notebook instead of an iPad. But that is okay, I believe. Technology is the application of science for the benefit of society. Technology has no moral authority. It has no moral value. It is the use of technology that gives it a moral value. How many agree with my statement? You must talk to me, please. No, it's a cold morning, so you need to motivate the mwalimu. Technology on its own has no moral value. It is the use that gives it a moral value. For example, a panga. A panga has no moral values. No moral value whatsoever. It is the use. If I use it to go and cut sugarcane for you to eat, then it is a good thing. If I use it to disconnect your head from your shoulders, then it is a bad thing. That is technology for you and me. We should always remember that technology has no moral value. It is the use. And many times, technology has positive and negative effects. And the technology we are talking about today is technology that is in social media. I grew up without computers. But earlier on, I was a bit afraid of the digital space. But now I have embraced it because I teach online, I give my exams online, and so forth. But that has opened me up to what we are talking today. You know, what we are talking today is about sexuality. Because when you see a woman, the community, the society has sexualized the woman. And a woman is seen from a sexual connotation. And so we have a mental image of what a woman is. You will excuse my talking explicitly because I am a scientist, I am a biologist, I am a geneticist, I'm in biology, and so we call things by their right name. We do not want any vagueness. Is that okay? So a woman is a person who is supposed to be beautiful, and we have the definition of beauty. It has something to do with the ratio of the bust and the waist and the hips. And we have been fed this and fed this and fed this until we believe it. And so as a young woman, you probably have that right ratio, but a little down the road when you have babies and that ratio is distorted, then you feel that you are not sexually attractive. And men have also been sold this, and they believe it, and so they also expect it. What we are talking about today is linked to commercialization of sexuality. Commercialization of sexuality. The female genital organ called the vagina is self-cleaning. It is elastic. Otherwise, you and I would not have been born. Can you imagine if it wasn't elastic? But because of this commercialization of sexuality, that organ has been shown to require certain assistance so that you and I can be the real woman. We are saying that the woman is being shown to be a kind of instrument or toy for the pleasure of men. By the way, sex is not a rude word. Sex is a human need. And it is both for the man and the woman. But the sexualization and commercialization of sexuality shows that the woman is a passive component in this sexuality for the benefit of the man. And so whatever you need to do to make the man happy, you go ahead and do it, even to your detriment. When I grew up, I am proud to say my age, I'm 63. So I grew up in the swinging 70s. And one of the commercialization of sexuality was that we wanted to have a lighter skin than we were born with. And so when we went to secondary school, everybody was using a skin lightening product. And so I also bought one. Clear Tone. There was another one called Ambi, and so forth. We know today that some of those products had harmful substances like mercury that have been linked to kidney failure and cancer. So why were we lightening our skin? Because it was believed then that a light skin was attractive. It was desirable. It was part of commercialization of sexuality. Today, this has gone to greater lengths to the point that I hear, and I was told, and when I went to Mombasa, I went to those shops where you are shown, like, you know, those charts for painting. You know, you want to paint your house and you go to the shop that they sell paints and they show you the chart, what one you want, and you say, I want this one. And they showed me that chart to choose the skin tone that I desired. And if I said I wanted this one, I would be given something to take so that my skin, not just on my face where I did it with Snow Fire and Clear Tone and Ambi, but my whole body would change color to the skin tone that was on that chart. Enter social media. Before, it was my peers who were using these things. But now enter social media. All of including myself, who was born before computers, I am on social media. And you wonder, how do these people know what I like? I am an old woman and I don't have babies, but I go to the supermarket to buy gifts for my grandchildren. And when I go to buy gifts, I buy toys, I buy diapers. And when I go to the till, they ask me, and I give my card, and there's my phone number. And before I know it, I get content coming telling me the new toys that have come into that shop. How did they know about me? And so we leave our data everywhere. We leave our phone numbers, we leave our IDs, we leave our preferences in shopping all over. What happens to that data? If we combine the two, the commercialization of sexuality and social media, you can see the power that is in other hands. No wonder we have just been given an exercise here where we Googled yoni pearls, and we were assured that within a short time we will start getting content related to that because of the algorithms that we were just shown, that it is not an innocent thing, a once-off. That data is put somewhere that you and I are interested in yoni pearls, and that is why we Googled it, and so get more information about yoni pearls and other pearls and other things that relate to sexuality. Enter big tech. You see, all of these things that are at the click of a button are owned by big companies. The Facebooks, the Googles, the YouTube, the Instagram. And they are a highway through which all kinds of content come through. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So, where does human rights come in? I forgot my phone. Can I get it so that I can read to you what is on the phone? Thank you. So, the Constitution of Kenya, I'll just get my phone. That is if, no, these things, thank you. The Constitution of Kenya 2010, in chapter 4, gives the various rights. And I want you to write down, because the things that we are dealing with here are related to rights. Number 1, Article 46 talks about consumer rights. Article 43 talks about consumer rights, that you and I, who are consumers of different products and services, have the right to. And there is A. I want to go to B. It says we as consumers have the right to information necessary for them, the consumers, to gain full benefit from those goods and services. C. And to the protection of their health, safety, and economic interest. And C. Compensation for loss or injury arising from defects in goods and services. Meaning that whatever products or services that we have and we use, we are entitled to full information on these products, and we are entitled to them, they have the responsibility to ensure that we do not get into ill health because of it. And if it happens, they're supposed to compensate us. We just show a video here of somebody who was talking about the effect the Ioni pearls had on them. Read them that and tell them to go and ask for compensation, because that is what our constitution says. Number two, we're talking about the rights that are at stake here. Consumer rights. Number two, the right to privacy. Article 31. Article 31 of our constitution talks about the rights to privacy. Every person has the right to privacy, which includes the rights not to have A, I will leave, B, I will leave, C, information related to their family or private affairs unnecessarily required or revealed. So when I go to the supermarket and I buy diapers for my grandchildren, who gives the supermarket the right to use that information otherwise and to send me ads on different kinds of toys and baby-related products? Is that a violation of my privacy? The algorithms that we are talking about here, are they a violation of your privacy? And yet we have a data commissioner in this country that is supposed to ensure that the data that we leave all kinds of places is safe and does not violate our rights to privacy. Bitcoin, no, it was called what? WorldCoin the other day, and people queued to get 7,000 shillings. And I saw something on that same social media that said, hii serikali mbaya. Unaona watu, they don't even need much. Wanachukua tu picha ya macho, wanatupatia 7,000. Tukienda kuchukua x-ray tunalipa pesa, wanachukua mwili yote. Sasa wanatukataza tu. What were they going to use this data for? Number three, first was consumer rights. Second was the privacy, rights to privacy. Number three is the right to information, Article 35. Article 35 of the Constitution of Kenya. Who is watching time? Tell me when it's up or when it's 5 minutes to, okay? Yeah, but you start from now. Article 35 says the following. Access to information. Every citizen has the right of access to information. I will leave A, 1A, I will leave B. I'll take 1A, which B says, every citizen has the right of access to information held by another person required for the exercise or protection of any right or fundamental freedom. Google has my information on my person, and I have a right to expect them to make sure that this does not get to third parties. 2 says, every person has a right to the correction or deletion of untrue or misleading information that affects their person. So if I Googled Yoni pearls, that is misleading information that I am interested to buy Yoni pearls, and therefore it should be deleted. Number 4, said consumer privacy, health rights, Article 43. Article 43 of the Constitution says that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health services, including reproductive health rights. So if any product or any service that I access affects my health negatively, then they are in breach of the Constitution. Last but not least is the vulnerable. Article 21 verse 3. I am not a lawyer, that's why I keep on looking at my notes. Article 21 3 talks about a special group of people. It says 21:3, all state organs and all public officers have a duty to address the needs of vulnerable groups within society. And this includes women. And we can continue with the rest. I submit to you that what we are dealing with here today is a vulnerable group. Women whose sexuality has been commercialized and who are targets of misinformation and disinformation and who are being exploited to the detriment of their health, never mind their pockets. So, where do we go from here? In the space of human rights, we have the duty bearers and the rights holders. We are all right holders. We hold those rights and they are inalienable. They are not given, they are yours by right. The duty bearers are those who are supposed to ensure that these rights are not violated. I want to call out the following duty bearers. 1, media platforms, Google, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc. These media platforms have a responsibility to ensure that the rights of us, the rights bearers, are not violated. And to this, they have policies to ensure that the terms of their service and their content do not violate these rights. They have those policies. We are saying simply enforce them. It's unfortunate that these policies are enforced in some countries, but they are not enforced here. We are a dumping ground for some of these products. Some of these products in their countries of production, they cannot be sold. They cannot even attempt to sell them there because there will be litigation and they will go out of business. So we are simply saying, let these media platforms enforce their policies. Number 2, we call upon state actors. The very business of government is to ensure the well-being and safety of their citizens. That's why they are there. That's why we elect them. That's why we give them our taxes, to ensure that our well-being and our safety is ensured. So we call upon the data commissioner to ensure that our data is not misused to our detriment. Number 2, we call upon regulators. I want to particularly call out the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS. When this Yoni business started in Kenya or was brought out to the fore, KEBS came out and said, these things are not regulated. These things, there is no evidence to support what they say they do. What did they do after that? Saying that they are fraudulently being sold to us. Already the media, the media platforms, in their policy statements, they say that they will not promote unsafe substances or outlandish claims. Some of the claims in social media have a weight problem, so I keep on Googling, and so of course they give me all the weight things. They promise me that with popping 1 or 2 pills, I will lose 10 kilos in a week. I mean, that's just like shrinking. Outlandish claims. And these media platforms, in their policies, they say they will not support outlandish claims. This, what we saw here, are outlandish claims. There is no way in which insertion of anything in the vagina will take care of endometriosis. It will not happen. So I'm calling out regulators like KEBS. So if these things are dangerous or have not gone through, by the way, when products are being developed, product development in health is a world regulated system where they go through non-clinical studies, in vitro, mice and rabbits and guinea pigs. After they finish to find out they are safe and they are efficacious, then they go to clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then post-marketing surveillance. It's a very complicated system. And when they go through this, and that's why when you get any health product or any product, there is a little booklet there telling you on the various stages and what has happened in mice, in pregnant mice, it has been shown in pregnant women, because by law it's supposed to be there. But these products that we are talking about, you get them and there is no information regarding the clinical or non-clinical trials. The safety and the efficacy of these products is not included. Therefore, my question is, how do they get into this country? True, I get it in social media and I pay through M-Pesa, but how does it get to my doorstep? Who is responsible to make sure that these things that are of questionable efficacy, outlandish claims, that they get into this country? I'm calling them out. I'm also calling out those who are in the judicial system. So if Facebook, Google, Instagram, if they do not adhere to internationally recognized standards, if the companies that manufacture these things do not adhere to these internationally recognized standards, what are we supposed to do? Look at them and say, okay, each for their own. If these media platforms do not adhere to their own policies and to our constitution, certainly there's supposed to be litigation, isn't it? So I am calling upon the office of the ODPP to investigate these things and sue them. And the judiciary to ensure, remember that all of these people who are in office, including myself, I swore to the Constitution to uphold it. Is that enough for today? What are we saying? We are saying that this is a wonderful opportunity. The last group of people we are calling upon, we said we are calling upon the duty bearers, are both state and state actors, non-state actors. We called upon the media platforms. We called upon the state. I am now calling upon you, the non-state actor. What are you supposed to do? Today it's Yoni Pulse, tomorrow it's the blue pill. Or was it the blue pill before Yoni Pulse? Or did they come in? So I'm calling you and I, all of us, people of goodwill, civil society, to make enough noise to ensure that these media platforms and the state actors do what they ought to do. Let them produce whatever pearls they want, but let us make sure that we make enough noise here that they are not sold here and taking advantage of vulnerable women whose sexuality has been commercialized. And so I ask that you join me in celebrating Fumbua, in celebrating the Council for Responsible Social Media, in celebrating the Reproductive Health Network of Kenya, and in celebrating She Persisted. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is with you all the way. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Prof. So would like to launch the officially launch the report first. But I think based on that address, surely there must be one question. Is there? For Prof. Or comment. Plus students. Anyone? No? Oh, there's one at the end? Okay. I think for me, the question was, and I don't want to sound like a devil's advocate, but I'm just wondering, can we really ever deal with the power imbalance that's between us as the African community, let me put it broadly like that, and the big tech? That's my question.
That's a good one, structural racism. That was a brilliant address, really brilliant, and thanks for giving that to us. But also, thanks for pointing out to the duty bearers. We have at different levels. Obviously, state agencies like yourselves. I know we have GEC in the house. Do we have any other state agency? Somebody representing a state agency, please hands up. Okay. At least I can see GEC, hand up. Yes. Oh, karibuni. So thanks for pointing the various levels of responsibilities, because this is a daunting challenge. We are talking about trillion-dollar companies. So I think I would want to hear from you. How do we come together? How do we synergize practically so that then we can make the demand on social media platforms? And I say this because I think we shall be hearing from Fumbua that when the report was ready, before it was released on 1st of August, it was, there were features. It was featured on The Nation, and it was featured on The Guardian. There were comments. It was also shared with Meta for Instagram, and then it was also shared with Google because of YouTube. And it was, we asked for comments from them, if this is the true reflection of what's happening on the platforms. When it was the Kenyan asking Fumbua, nation, us, they ignored us. It was not until a day later or 2 days later when The Guardian published the report that very quickly Google reached out to The Guardian and said, in fact, yes, we acknowledge what you're saying. And they began pulling down the harmful materials. Facebook is still sitting pretty. So my question to you, as somebody coming from government and to us here working in this space, how can we work together to make sure that these people don't continue ignoring us? We are small actors, we are extractive markets. They can do whatever they want with us. A lot of these products would not be found in there, in the West. So, and I'm sure it ties to what I was asking as well. But we are not less. I think we, as Africans, need to come out of that helplessness. So what do we do?
Thank you so much, Leah. I'll take one more.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam. That's a brilliant presentation. I'm really encouraged. My name is Annie Kiara, and I come from the Digital Action. Malinformation, misinformation, hate speech. It's a very, very wide ecosystem. And sexual reproductive health is just one of them. In my organization, we deal with misinformation in the context of human rights, democracy, and elections. I'm sure we all know what happened here in 2007 and subsequent elections. How can we cast the net wider from including sexual reproductive health and other ills that bedevil our continent and our country specifically? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll hand it over to you, Prof. There should be a mic right next to you.
Thank you very much. I am not sure I have answers, but we can explore what has happened in the past. Business is about profit. And unless you impact negatively on their profit, they are not going to hear. So whatever strategy you use must touch on their profit. Number two, the more the power of a person or an institution or an organization, the more likely they are to violate the rights of others. And therefore, the powerful companies, institutions, government, etc., are more likely to violate your rights than me, Marion, one simple woman. Those are two things that we must hold them together. We can look in the past, what has happened in the past. I'll give you a few examples. One, there was a drug that was sold that was called thalidomide. Who knows the thalidomide story? Thalidomide was a drug that was sold for early pregnancy nausea. That when in early pregnancy, women feel nauseated. And so they sold this drug, and it curbed nausea. But one of the side effects of that drug was that children were born without limbs. The hand was right here. The foot was right here. The leg was missing, the arm was missing. Google thalidomide. T-H-A, L-I-D-O-M-I-D-E. Thalidomide. Read that story. That company was sued out of business. 2, GMOs. I am a geneticist. You excuse me for going into areas that are in my area. genetically modified organisms. The company called Monsanto was sued. And at the end of those lawsuits, Monsanto sold out to Bayer. So whatever strategy you take, being big or small, must touch on their profits. Because business is about profits. Without profits, there's no business. Example number 3. We made lots and lots and lots of noise about a company called Kakuzi. The Kakuzi was violating the rights of people. People went there to cut firewood and women were raped and others were killed. And nobody listened until we made so much noise that it went to their supply chain company in the UK, Tesco, and Tesco said, from today, we are not buying products from because they are violating. Then Kakuzi woke up because there are violations. Their profits were touched. Last but not least, just the other day, Kericho. It is common knowledge. I lived in Kericho for 5 years. So I knew it was common knowledge that for any woman to get a job in the tea industry, you had to sleep with a supervisor and sleep with who and who and who. Yeah. Everybody knows it. The county government knew it. We all knew it. The government knew it. Nobody did anything until we made enough noise that it got to their supply chain. And they said, we are not going to buy tea from you anymore. But before that, I want to say that unless this thing, we make enough noise that it gets to local media and to international media, we will not make any progress. These big companies are big because they have money, but they make money from us, those who are buying the yoni pals. So it is important. You and I are not helpless. We can expose this thing. And I hope you're going to put this in social media. You can make enough noise until it threatens their profits. And when it does, they will do something. Number 2, we can litigate. We can litigate. Yes. This company that was doing their I talk too fast, my mind gets stuck. That company, it was something Analytica. What happened to Cambridge Analytica? Sued. So yes, we can litigate. And I have given you the constitutional violations that are at risk. I've given them to you. Together and go to court and come to us. We will join you. Go to court. Let us have one case, a test case to prove. We'll work with you. We have lawyers. We may not want to go to court ourselves because we are a state agency, but we go to court amicus. We join you and join you. We'll help you do the research. We'll help you look at the cases. Our lawyers will help you. Let us have a test case and let us see how this operates. So back to us. Of course, there are simple things that we can do, like public education and so forth and so on. But those are at the demand side. Let's do both the demand side and the supply side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. So now let's launch this report, right? So Prof, don't leave just yet. I want to invite a few stakeholders to join us. So we have Leah coming in from the Council for Responsible Social Media. We have Wanjiro from Fumbua. We have Adele, who's a radio presenter and podcaster. We're all aware of Legally Clueless, right? And we have Morris, who began the day with us, Baraza Media Lab. So I think we're going to invite these wonderful people to help us do a launch. Guys, how do we make a launch fantastic? We need like background music. And a bit of dancing so that you guys can finally read the report. For those of you who haven't read, okay? I've not engendered the process. Morris. At least, what? We have Morris. Can I invite Samson from? True. Morris, you see, you're making me look bad. Samson, please join us as well from Reproductive Health Network. Yes. So we have some pairs of scissors over here. So I guess we'll start with a photo op. Those who can clap, that would be amazing. Releasing you guys to read the books. And so 1, 2, 3. Woo! Congratulations, Fumbua. Congratulations, she persisted. Congratulations, RHN. Who am I leaving out? Council for Responsible Social Media. A big congratulations to you guys and good work. You can share them out. Awesome. So we each get a copy. Everyone gets a book. You get a book. Okay. So as those are going around, I think I'll allow us to each get a copy first. Yeah. Anyone without a copy? We're all good? Or at the end? Okay. You ready? So make sure you get it signed before you leave. And make sure you read it. And make sure you tweet about it, right? Awesome. So I'd like us to watch one more video before we actually invite the brains behind this report, you know, the person who put this all together, did the hard work, and gave us the results that we have today. So okay. So our media needs a bit of time to just put that together. So we'll go back to you. Who has a book now? What's your first impression of the book? Maybe I should get my own copy. No, it could be those people who share. You show people how to get to heaven and then you're left at the door. What comes to mind, guys? It's informative? Okay. So informative is one off the top of her head. She just says She's already picked up a few things from the book. Anyone else? Yes. Okay, sparks her curiosity. Yes, Samson.
Just saw the picture down here, and I am not seeing a single male. I don't know whether we are not part and parcel of these problems. There is none. No, that's a female. But we are the one who gives them money to buy.
You give the ladies money. Samson, come on. We're in the 21st century. 5% only. Yes, please. Yes, there is an online version. There is actually a link. I think we'll put up the link just before we get to the end. Yes, there is an online copy. Yeah. Any more questions, comments? What did you think of the photos? The photos in between here that you find, did this look familiar? Right? Like on Facebook, the results you get on Facebook, so that's page 21, 22, even the search that we did earlier in the day. It's exactly what we've interacted with online, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I think we are ready with our last video. Okay. So I will give us some time to watch that and then proceed. Thank you very much. So I don't want to waste any more time. And I want to invite Wanjiro to take us through this report. She put in the hard work, did the research, worked together with her team to put this together. And it would be great to hear from her, what are some of their findings? What was actually the work? What did that look like? What did that process look like? And what are some of the steps, moving forward that they foresee? So karibu sana, Miss Wanjiru, Program Officer Fumbua. Round of applause for Wanjiru.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good morning. How are you? I usually struggle every time we're about to have conversations about social media, big tech. I usually struggle to like liven up the room because there's never an easy way, to have conversations about social media and the harms. And I'd also just like to appreciate Professor Marion. Thank you so much for that keynote. It's almost like you had read the report, although I know you had read the report. And so you make my work very, very, very easy. Also, I promise not to keep you here very long. I have a PowerPoint presentation, but it will not be that long and that. Um, so my name is Wanjiru Nguhe. I'm the Fumbua program manager. And I love that Maurice already introduced Fumbua, and Fumbua is a collaborative journalism project. And we're working to disrupt the flow of mis and disinformation, not just in the media, but most importantly in the online space. A huge chunk of our work deals with advocacy, and that is why we're happy to collaborate with the Council for Social Media and SHIP Assisted and also the Reproductive Health of Kenya to bring this report to you and to talk about how it's not just mis and disinformation, but it's also the amplification of mis and disinformation that makes these kind of scams, pervasive online. So I don't know. Okay, just a minute. So the thing about online health scams, as Professor Marion has said, they don't just operate in a vacuum. There's a whole context. There's the context of social media platforms and how social media platforms are filled. I had made a few notes. I'm not old school, but the value of writing, the value of writing anything down. So the online environment, as we know it right now, has made it very, very easy for scams and misinformation and disinformation to be amplified. That is not to say that this is the first time we're experiencing misinformation, or it is the first time that we're experiencing scams, especially with relation to the problem that we're facing right now is the amplification of it. And why this is going on is, number one, there's usually disinformation for hire when it comes to the online spaces. And I know we experienced this, especially during the elections, where we saw people actively having propaganda campaigns with regards to politics. But it does not usually end when it comes to politics. It's also when people are trying to sell products like the ones that we're about to talk about in the report. They're usually people who are paid specifically to make sure that they make the money, because that is what capitalism does. It takes and takes and takes at your own expense. And then there's also the issue of the insufficient content moderation. And we are all aware of the case that is going on with Facebook and Sama at the High Court, where they were sued for labor violations. And the reason that we're seeing that is because we have insufficient content moderation. So even if we have content moderators, they're not able to moderate the context of the conversations that we're having. They're not able to moderate the languages of what we're having. And also the community guidelines are based on value systems that are imported. It is not to say that the community guidelines are not helpful, but they can be better. All right. And then there's also inadequate response to harassment and cyberbullying. We've seen this a lot, and in fact, during the weekend, we were trying to help a young lady whose account was hacked, and there was her porn. Her pictures were being spread on her Facebook account, and it took us about 3 days to get into contact with Facebook, to have the account removed, to have the account replaced, and that is just one person. And the only reason that we're able to do that during a weekend is because she knew people who know other people in the Facebook space. Now, can you imagine the countless of women who do not have people who know other people who know other people? And it took a whole weekend knowing every person that we knew. I'm giving you stories while we wait for this thing. Okay. And then there's also ineffective algorithm system, and Professor Marion has talked very much about this, and I'm sure you're going to see adverts about reproductive things, unipals and things like that, because of how the algorithm is set up. And the algorithm is set up like this because that is the business model of social media platforms. That is how they make money. They make money through eyeballs. How do they make sure you see the eyeballs? By giving you content that either enrages you or misinformation or things that they know are going to go viral. Most of the things that go viral are mostly not positive things. It's mostly misinformation, because lies and gossip and scams, they travel faster. And they don't just travel faster out of, it's not luck. it's also because people pay adverts for this thing. And the problem that we're having with social media platforms is accepting money from these adverts that are then used to scam people. All right? And then we have limited transparency, where we don't exactly know how to, like, you can report a violation, nothing will be done as quickly as it needs to be done. And so there's a back end conversation. There are things that we do not know now. It's like things are in the cloud, other things are in the darkness, other things I don't know underwater. So there's that limited transparency when it comes to how social media platforms operate. And then there's also something that Professor Marion really talked very passionately about, the privacy data concerns. Every time we are on social media, we're giving out our information, we're giving out our data in the form of cookies. So where does this data, where does this data go? What does this data do? How is it used? And then we see that it is used, it is sold, and then you end up getting these adverts. There's something very strange going on in America right now with regards to these privacy data concerns, where women are being advised to stop using period apps, because that is how they gather your data. And in the event that you're pregnant and you're going to get an abortion, like, it's a whole ripple effect of how data concerns are are being used. So we can start from the beginning. Yes, I'd actually just begun. So Fumbua, and then, yes, from the next slide, and then the next slide. Yes. All right. So I think I've just begun with where all of this begins, by looking at the online environment and what the online environment looks like and what makes it possible for these online health scams, to persist. So there's that, and then there's also the issue of how our society is set up. Because also when we are operating online from our own context. So we have our own patriarchal belief systems about what women should look like, what a woman's sexuality should look like. And I'm going to refer a lot to Professor Marion's speech, because I think she did a fantastic job when she talked about capitalizing of women's sexuality. And for me, what these online health scams revealed, and what I felt even while doing this report, is the fact that capitalism and patriarchy and big harm have conspired together to make money from women, to make money from the fact that we do not know, to make money from the fact that we do not have regulatory structures or frameworks to hold these platforms accountable. Of course, apart from the constitutional and the judiciary route. But yes, there's that. And then, oh, it's not loud enough. Can you hear me? Loud. Wow, Lord. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, yes, this one's better. Okay. Oh, she was trying to signal me. I wasn't listening. Sorry. Okay, then we can now proceed. So what did the investigation found, right? What did the investigation... what the investigation found. I thought I didn't know English for a moment there. Okay, number one, there are numerous Facebook groups and pages and Instagram accounts that are actively selling these Unipals. In fact, when you go to YouTube and Google Unipal, although some of them have been taken down, but even if they've been taken down, they're still there. And these groups have thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and everyone on these groups is giving testimonials. Now, the thing that I find interesting about Unipals is that you cannot come out and say, like, you can, but we have to protect the identity. But for people who are selling these things, can you imagine what kind of conversation you would have if you told someone that Unipads were not working for me? What conversation is going to come out? Do you not know how to clean yourself? Do you not know? Are you not tight enough? Are you not? What is going on down there? Because there's this pressure for women to be perfect in every way, and yet there's the way we are supposed to be. But then when you have the pressure to be, and the pressure to become, and the pressure to perform, then it becomes increasingly difficult for us to be open and honest about our sexuality. Another thing that the investigation found is Facebook's own algorithms often amplify this kind of content. So as soon as you see one video and you click out of curiosity, then you see other videos. There's a problem with that, because I do not want to keep seeing these videos. And also these videos are mis- and disinformation videos. And then your battery is running low. And then and then the content is also widely available, despite the fact that I mentioned community guidelines, where you're not supposed to accept advertisement for things that have been banned in other countries. These things are poisonous. There has been no medical evidence to say that Unipals are actually effective in curing endometriosis, fibrosis, and all these other things. And yet you have a company accepting adverts to sell something that has not been cleared by the medical and the gynecologist association, or anyone, any scientific evidence to show that these things work. And yet these platforms are taking money in the form of adverts to sell these things. And then when you open your phone and your app and whatever, you see these things. Google and YouTube are also part of this harmful system. When you log on to Google, when you search whatever, a YouTube video, you will find it right there. Once you click it, even if you are just curious or you're just watching music, for example, and then the advert comes on or something like that comes on. Another thing about YouTube that we found is that you see when you're watching a video and there are all these adverts in between the video. So someone is doing a video of this band Unipals, and then you will find a video from like an advertisement video from another company. So please tell me why Google is, first of all, allowing this content to be out on its platform. And then another thing, why are you even making money from this content, creating the traffic for other people to advertise, their products on content that is, that is harmful content. Another thing is that we have a network of Christian organizations and Chinese herbal companies that play a role in spreading misinformation. I'm sure you are all aware of what is going on, particularly in the continent where there's a wave of a pushback of SRH child rights, and we're not just talking about LGBTQ, but just generally reproductive health rights, where we have all these we have this wave of every time. Sometimes I will log on and I'll see a hashtag and people are talking about anti-abortion, anti all of these things, and it's usually like what I said, disinformation for hire. So you have Christian organizations, which is not surprising but also very surprising in ways that we will discuss when we start to talk about religious disinformation and the harm that has. Next slide. Well, the battery gets, sorted out. Now, our research concentrated mostly on Unipals, which are like a bag or a wire mesh of herbs that are inserted, and apparently, they're supposed to clean your vagina. They're also supposed to clean endometriosis, things that women face. Now, I forgot to mention that the context of the health structure in this country is also a thing that is also we need to talk about, because where we do not have access to healthcare, or we have access to healthcare but we cannot afford healthcare, it makes it very easy for people to begin these health scams. Because if I cannot access healthcare for treatment of endometriosis, what is going to happen when I see someone else peddling lies about the same thing that I'm struggling with? It is very possible for me to actually believe it. And this is why, and I should have said this at the beginning of the presentation, that it doesn't, sometimes there are layers and tiers of responsibility. There's individual responsibility, there's institutional responsibility, and there's also structural responsibility. It does not matter how careful I am or how much digital literacy I know, even if digital literacy is important, if we do not deal with our health structure, if we do not deal with accountability of tech platforms, it would mean very little for me to be careful about how I use my social media. And I say this very specifically to people who want to gaslight people who actually believe in these scams without looking at what the context looks like and how we are really failing and how we're really being failed as citizens. And then there's also yoni steaming, which involves sitting over a bowl of herbs and boiling hot water. I don't know if any of you have tried it. If you have, I do not judge you, but these things actually do not work. I have had women say that they feel good, but scientifically and medically, they actually do not work. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I saw a video of, I think it was Jada Pinkett Smith, on the Red Table Talk, where she presses the table and says things slowly to sound like she's serious, but she's actually spreading misinformation. Okay. Now, there are scams related to women's healthcare. And when we talk about women's healthcare, we have to talk about women's healthcare with one, a lot of compassion, and two, very little to zero judgment. Because women's healthcare, I was reading something today, I don't know if it's disinformation or not, where they're talking about how they make pads and how they do the experiment with pads. And they actually never use, okay, I'm about to gross you out, but they actually never use real blood when they're doing experimentation with pads. So everything that we know about absorption might not be true, because there's little investment in women's healthcare, women's biology, and how women's bodies work. And so the context of this, again, makes it very possible for women to be scammed into some of these scams. So we have unsafe menstrual product, and I have a very personal attachment to my Always experience that we did in 2019, where we opened up the conversation on menstrual products, and we started talking about how Always, was selling terrible. Women were getting
rashes and itching and all of these things. That when we called them out, they told us, look, we already have soft pads. But then you see, if you tell me you have a soft pad, it could be soft toxin. Like, I don't know anything about the texture. What I know is when I wear this pad, it affects me, because we are not having conversations about our menstruation period, our reproduction, because there's little information about it. Those with information about it need to amplify that information, and also we need more investment into women's reproductive health. There's also harmful beauty products, which happens online, where you're told about creams and you're told about lightening. And I'm sure when Professor Marion was talking about Fair and Lovely, I don't understand what was going on those days, where people would apply Fair and Lovely, and then you apply powder, and then you put lip gloss. Yo. So there's that. And then and harmful beauty products, normally they prey on our self-esteem. I don't know if you walked downtown Nairobi and then someone is selling you gel, and then you're passing and they tell you, Madam Hips, Madam Matako. So you end up thinking, what is wrong with me? Why are you selling me? Why are you telling me this? So they not only happen offline, but they also happen on the online platforms. And the problem with the online platforms is the amplification. All right. And then there are also breast implants. We've seen documentaries about breast implants and BBLs, the Brazilian butt lifts that have been very poisonous. After the COVID pandemic, the next pandemic is really the implants and BBLs. I don't know if you know that, but when people are having these conversations, they often have this conversation in ways that shame women, but they do not understand the kind of societal pressure that women are under to be perfect. I was going to curse, but I will not. Okay, let's... So there's Meta and Google's failure to protect women. The interesting thing about Meta and Google is that when you go to their website, they have this statement, company policy, that say we protect women. In fact, they also have campaigns that talk about women first, women supporting women, women in art, all these women things, but it's all very performative, because the viral nature of social media allows for women to be scammed because of all the contextual gaps that we've seen with women's healthcare. So when Google is unable, or when Facebook is unable to content moderate products that harm women, then we question their commitment. We question their statements that claim that they're actually about protecting women. Because when it comes to money, they will take that money at the expense of women. And that's a fact. All right. So that was what we found. We're going to wait for... So while we wait for the machine to come back on, we're also going to talk about YouTube. And YouTube has this video, which has 600,000 views. I'm sure by now there are more views. And in this video, this lady talks about how Unipals are successful, and how Unipals, have left her, have benefited her life. And when you watch this video, you will see adverts. You will see evidence that YouTube is not just amplifying this content, but they are also making money from this content. Like I said, they are making money at your own expense. They are throwing you under the bus for the sake of making profits. When you go to Facebook, and Facebook is very big on these statements and these company policies that say they support women. When you go to Facebook, you will find multiple groups, and these groups have thousands one Facebook group that we saw with less than 5,000 people, 5,000 women selling and buying and lying lying about how these products are helping their lives. So once we found that, where do we go from there? Once there is evidence that there are these scams being sold online, that misinformation is going on online, it's not just being amplified, but people are making money from these things. Where do we go from there?
Do we just accept and say this is just how things are? Where do we go from there? There are very, very, very many things that we can do. As Professor Marion said, I said I was going to reference your talk a lot because I feel like you read the report and you understand exactly what we're talking about. The number one thing that we must do is work with government to make sure that we work on a regulatory framework that holds these platforms accountable. It is very good that we have a pending case in court, which is a very monumental case that tells us the route we should take with regard to the Constitution and the judiciary. But aside from that, can we also work towards having a regulatory framework where we can hold these platforms accountable, where these platforms can be summoned to Parliament, where they can be summoned to the Senate, and we can begin to talk about what they're doing to women, and not just women, but also the population at large. Another thing that we need to seriously start considering is that we are all aware of the harms of big tech, but can we work together more deliberately and with more intention? Civil society, the media, like what we are doing, with Fumbua, and also how we've been able to put this report together, working together, like we step out of the work that we're doing and find out how else can I complement the work that someone else is doing? How can I supplement the work that, that someone else is doing? This is very, very important because then it gives us a louder voice. And then it also makes it difficult for one organization to be a target. Because if it's just Baraza Media that is doing the work of holding tech, watatuzima. Wakituzima tunyamaze, then the work stops. But if we are a whole collective, if we are collaborating, then it becomes very difficult, for one organization to be a target. Another thing that we really need to be careful, to really think and to invest in is research. Work like this that exposes people, that exposes these companies. Sometimes people do not know what to do because they do not have the information. People have said that this is not a reading nation. I disagree with that fully because we are actually a reading nation. We actually know how to read. I don't know why people say that. I don't understand. But investment into research, investment into this kind of exposés, that this is amplified. So I'm very keen on collaboration, very keen on research, very keen on calling them out. And then there's also a little bit of personal responsibility where you see something going on, you shout it out. Like what we did during the My Always experience. A woman came out and said, these pads are terrible. And that way we break the culture of silence. The things that these people fear, these big tech platforms are afraid of is one, being exposed, and two, hitting them where their profits, where their pocket is. And so if we work together, we work with government, we push government, we do even research for government. I remember I was in a meeting on last week, and we were asking like some of the regulators who were in the room, why did they allow WorldCoin, to not just come and scan people, but like they were actually aware of WorldCoin. And the thing that they told us is that the regulators are catching up to technology. So for the rest of us who have the benefit of knowing what is actually going on, there's an opportunity there for us to explore and find out how can we work with government to make sure that we actually have a framework that allows us to hold these tech platforms accountable. It is important, it is necessary, it is the work of the Lord. We are fighting for ourselves. This is independence, I think, in the digital age. We are like freedom fighters, but digitally. Thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. Please engage with the material, with the reports. I'm also looking forward to collaborating with many of you and to doing more and more of these reports and these researches. Thank you so much. And yes, God bless you.
Awesome. Just have a seat. Karibu. So I'm about to send you guys out for a health break. I know you've been seated a minute, right? But before we do that, I think we need to engage with Wanjiru, right? Just based off what she has said. What is coming to your mind? And I think for me, the question that I'm asking myself, and maybe I'll target you guys at the end of our session today, is what will you do today? Right? So even as we are going for a health break, as we are coming to the close of, the launch, I want you to answer the question, what will you do today? Okay? So any comments, any questions for Wanjiru? Seems like the backbenchers were the ones who are thriving. Yes, again, they thrive.
My name is Otieno Mbok. I come from Peace Actors Forum with Leah. I also come from the analog days of advocacy where everything was analog. Part of the experience of a prof, I was involved in the Del Monte one as well, which was nasty, as well as the flower farms in Naivasha, yeah, with KHRC. My organization those days was called Chemchemi Ukweli. I think, yes, we can generally, make comments in terms of way forward, but the best is just to invite strategists for an independent session where the focus is strategy, so that we do a proper context analysis and understand the SWOT of these multinationals. Just target one, and the experience will inform others. And as from Prof's experience, the advocacy is both local and international, including going into that country and petitioning their, I don't know, House of Representative or whatever they call it in UK, yeah, and target the market there. The market, the parliament, those two consumers. And then the local one is just to do awareness raising, because when we started a boycott on Del Monte here, they laughed and said, oh, in Kenya, you don't consume any mananasi, nyi mnacheza. Then they gave us a linkage that, well, the consumption is in Europe. So we went there. And at that time, Del Monte was sponsoring an Italian club called Lazio. We went and met the captain of Lazio, and their embarrassment that went into the morality of the players forced an investigation that came to Kenya. So we need serious strategy. This is just an opener to the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I see front benchers are back. So we'll take the two.
Thank you. My name is Lynette Ouma, representing Organization of African Youth and a renowned advocate for SRH within Kenya and in the region. So I think for a while within the SRH space, I think we've been doing a lot of work on advocacy and even maybe the clinically accepted commodities. We call them commodities on the other side, or products. But maybe from this conversation, and I think even from others, even the traditional ones that have not been getting to the online space and the ones that are being marketed on the online space. And like Prof said, it's like we are in a dump site. At the same time, and also from your report, we are in a dump site in a constitutionally governed country where bills are being passed every day, where we have enforcement and where we have the judiciary. So I think what we need to do, this is not an area that maybe I'm not so well aware, but has not attracted that kind of civil society engagement in the wider scope, the way maybe in a SRH space we do work that are controversial, or when you think government is not hearing us, or when you think the public is at harm. So maybe we need to borrow a leaf from there and start with our own. There's the global bit, and then starting from our own. A product cannot come into our country or be sold even online if our government doesn't know. So there's interest. Like, it might not be interest of money for maybe Google or Meta. There's someone locally, there's an institution locally that also has interest. And maybe if there's money or vested power there, we need to do that analysis is talking about and find out who is benefiting from that porous market. Because locally, our own, if our government decides we cannot access those, they'll pass bills, and trust you me, we won't as of tomorrow, right? So I think locally we need to do our own analysis and find out where is the interest when it comes to the social media and this kind of advertisement, and why has that access been left porous when even our own, some of our own commodities that have been tested, like maybe people from RHNK will tell you the way we are being fought on access to safe abortion and their commodities. And those ones have been properly clinically tested. But then we are so porous on things that now give us long-term health issues. I think we need to do a proper strategy in-house and find out where that interest is and pick up from there and borrow leaves from what the SRH community and even work together, what the SRH community is doing in their advocacy space so that it becomes a concerted kind of effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Just a minute.
On litigation, he well put it that it's both local and out there. I want to bring your attention to a new law, new 2015. It's called the Human Trafficking and Exploitation Law in the UK. It says that any British company, they can look at all their supply chain to the end and they can deal with it. And we as a commission, we are working with them. So if there is any company here in Kenya whose parent company or has contacts or on the supply side or is linked to the UK, we have those contacts. And these are some of the issues that can be dealt with when we work together. Because we may have that avenue, but we don't have the details that you have. And once we find out, and that's the strategy, once we find out that maybe this is a UK company, then we can use our linkages there to bring them to account.
Have a mic.
Thank you so much, Wanjiro, and that has been a beautiful and insightful presentation there. My name is Mikrina Diambo. I work with an organization known as TICA, and I'm a serious sexual and reproductive health advocate. And I'm so glad that these findings are coming in when the conversations around yoni pals, and they've even got another name, Miski, on social media. Yes, Miski, yes. These conversations are happening on social media, even, and I stand to be corrected, when the Kenya Poisons Board banned the yoni pals. But even on TikTok and on Instagram, what I'm talking about, Miski, is being marketed left, right, and center. And trust you me, women and girls are seriously purchasing these products. Now, we're a huge consumer of social media. And trust you me, we've seen what social media has done in our context. My challenge to us is, and we were challenged by the moderator today with asking ourselves, what are we going to do starting from today? And I'm glad that one thing that never lies is data. You're having data, you're having the case studies. How are we going to amplify that moving on forward? And even calling the Miski products, because every time, trust you me, you'll find a Kenyan celebrity on TikTok, Miski, tighten your vagina, furahisha bwana yako, ABC, and everything that is happening. Even today, you'll find that on social media. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation, and from today henceforth, flagging that off and calling them out, because trust you me, the social media revolution in Kenya is a serious powerhouse. So I think that's a challenge to all of us moving on forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's just one. Okay, two. You guys don't want your health break? Okay, so I'll start with you, then come to Adele, and then I think I'll release you guys for a break.
My name is Ramwaka from the SRHR Alliance in Kenya. And the conversations that we're having today, I think it's a really good conversation. And what I've thought about is that, you know, the yoni pals are already there. We have users who, you know, depend on it, users who believe that, you know, this is the right thing to do. And apart from just social media, how do we engage young women who, because of the insecurities that have been perpetrated by the gender power imbalance, by the myths and misconceptions, by the, you know, by the insecurities, they really want to improve their sex life and they think this is the right method. And apart from Unipals, we have other, you know, misinformation that is being spread on social media by our influencers, celebrities, including opting for not opting for natural birth, but opting for CS in this conversation. So my question is, or my thought as we move forward is, how do we then start from the users that we have, apart from now the new users who are being targeted by social media? We have people who are already addicted to this product. And let's say we work with all our stakeholders and these things are banned in Kenya. We still have Uganda and Tanzania, and these things are still sold. And just like Bang, it's illegal in Kenya, but people access it. So what information, what messages do we need to give to young women to make them live these insecurities about their sexuality, and stop using these harmful products or stop the misinformation from spreading? Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Adele Onyango. I want to first and foremost congratulate everybody involved in this report. It's so necessary. I had never come across these products just because I've seriously curated my space out of safety and to avoid cyberbullying. So there are certain words that are just muted, I wouldn't see them. But I think to speak to first what you've said, it's at the beginning of change. If you can get very overwhelmed if you start looking at all the things that could go wrong. And so it's always great to start with what's within your control here and now. And if we all do that part, then we'll have a collective huge wave of change. But to speak to, I forget your name, but you called yourself a very serious sexual reproductive health and rights advocate at the front. I think also a call to action is there's a culture that makes women feel less than and inadequate, right? And that was spoken about during the keynote speech. But cultures are moved forward by people. It's not a vacuum. And we all propagate these cultures in one way or another in our spheres of influence. It's how we have conversations in our homes about, why don't you have a child yet? It's how we body shame each other in our families, right? It's these different ways that we contribute to these cultures. Cultures are made by people. So I think even today, the first stance as an individual is to ask yourself really, like, how are you contributing to this culture? What are some stereotypes you're pushing forward? What are some statements you're saying to women in your space that are making them think that there's something wrong with how their bodies are, and then making them ripe enough to fall for these online health scams? So I think sometimes we always think, which is important, we have to hold institutions accountable, we have to hold the platforms accountable, but there's also individual responsibility in the sense of how are we contributing to that culture, and sometimes we seem to forget that as well.
Thank you very much, Adele. And just to recognize you as the face of the digital campaign, and we are very grateful to have you, amplifying this conversation and making sure, there's that equipment, the resources are shared out there. And so thanks for the good work on this. So just because of my age, I would like to allow my senior to go and then release us for our health break. Yes, thanks.
Thank you very much. This report is very timely and handy. My name is Susan Owiro Chege. I'm from the Peace Actors Forum, and I also sit under what we call the Gender Sector Working Group and State Department of Gender, that brings together state and non-state actors to push the issues of GBV and also women, peace and security. My take here is, how do we then involve other people? If this thing is making us make the men happy, how do we then bring them on board as partners? One of the activities that we were able to do while dealing with issues of FGM, we were campaigning for rites of passage, alternative rites of passage. But one of our success stories was bringing forth Samburu men and Maasai men to say no to FGM. When they began saying no to FGM, we saw a number of them saving the girls from undergoing the FGM, because they kept on saying, their slogan is that they want their women whole. They don't want an FGM woman, and therefore they will be going out to seek the women who have not undergone FGM. So for me is, how do we become inclusive enough so that as much as it is we are addressing issues of women, we also want to address issues of men. The women are doing this because they are making the men happy. What can we be able to do so that the men say, we don't want the happiness that is contributing towards your health? So strategies that we are going to use must be very holistic. We must really look at key other things that we can do. Back then, I worked at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and I worked undercover in a flower farm to be able to actually get to know all this information that were going on to deal with issues of human rights. And it worked. When we went to Netherlands to stop the sale of flowers during Valentine, and we had the faces of the people who actually worked, the companies could not say that I didn't work at Oserian. They looked at me and they said she was our employee, I had an employee number. I had everything that it took for me to work there. We bribed our way through and worked undercover. I think we need to look at different strategies for us to actually hit the road running and get success to our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the word strategy is resounding, right? Any feedback from you, Wanjiru? None. Okay. So kindly allow me. I know there's still there's one more. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Beatrice Owino from National Gender and Equality Commission, and I'm here with my colleagues. I think Madam here was reading my mind, and together with what Prof had told us, actually, I had a point on inclusion and the strategies that we are going to use. She's talked of a certain inclusion of existing structures that we have within. We also have inclusion of having the duty bearers, CSOs. Probably the government arm may not have quite enough resources to bring this on board, but as CSOs, if you come together as partners and have, even if it is a roundtable meeting, a breakfast meeting with the key government agencies like the CCK, the Data Protection Commission, the ICT, legislatures, MOH, bring them on board, because actually we cannot sing this song if our duty bearers and the people who are charged with the responsibility at the top level do not really have the information. So one of the key things is that we have to first bring this level of awareness at the national level and have some ambassadors or champion at that table, so that even as we advocate, there are already people who are informed of what we are talking about. Then we roll it down to other structures where we even now get the users or the beneficiaries of these products, where we have the women and girls coming now to speak with these duty bearers to give the life experience and what they've undergone. And in that manner also let's come up with like a communication, a communique during that meeting, so that it becomes something that we can even present to the CS in charge, so that it becomes a national thing. So we just need to work around the strategy that we are going to employ so that this issue becomes a nationwide, and we start with it locally, because even when we go international and our Kenyan context has not embraced or appreciated that really our women and girls are going through this, then sometimes we might meet some barriers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's now 11:05. Can I give you 10 minutes? Yeah, 10 minutes for the health break. If you remember, the washrooms are just outside the lift, for the ladies to the right, for the gentlemen to the left. Feel free to snack. I believe there's still some food for us. And then we can come back at 11:15, right? For the final part of our session today. Thank you so much.
who, first of all, if you look at the context, are surrounded in an environment where even talking about the vagina in our conservative society is rooted in shame. And for the first time ever, even in our studios at NTV, we had a conversation on reproductive health care, and we're talking about, but we did not use any euphemisms. We're not talking about down there. We're not talking about our private parts. We actually said this is how you take care of your vagina, and whatever this social media influencer is telling you out there is not correct. And our particular focus, of course, was yoni pulse. So breaking the story for me was putting a human face to that report. So you have the findings that Meta and Google are profiting from mis and disinformation on reproductive health care. But at the end of the day, who's the end user? And as civil society organizations or other